Hi everyone, this is Dayu from EcommOps. Today I want to share with you a special case study on how we help scale a client store to more than $2 million in under 30 days. And usually I talk about branding and kind of optimization like that. However, in this case, there was no branding, no customization, just really great marketing from our client side and also very thoughtful, aggressive supply chain planning to make sure that we help this store reach their true potential. Now, we're going to do this case study a little bit differently because we actually worked with our client Garrett, who's an amazing marketer, by the way. I'll leave his contact below if you want to reach him. But we worked with him on two different stores, both one product stores with some upsells. Now, last year during Q4, we worked on a store and he made over $200,000 in Q4, which is not too bad. However, we even knew at the time that if we were more thoughtful, more aggressive with supply chain planning, that store could have made a lot more money and most likely it could have made 7 figures in last Q4. And we took those learnings and we worked together. Our client took a little bit more risk, and during roughly COVID period, that's where we helped him scale to more than $2 million. It was $2.4 million at the end over a period of less than 30 days. Now, you will actually note here that these numbers are a little bit different because the top is Shopify and the bottom is actually from ClickFunnels. Now, the fact that he was using a different platform and different marketing strategy, that's not something that we're going to talk about here. We're really going to talk about the supply chain planning, which really applies no matter how you market and what platform that you actually use. So let's start first with the background of the first store we helped them scale. The product was a children's product. This is obviously not the real product. I'm not going to be able to show you guys the product because of client privacy. Children's products usually do super well during Q4. However, parents are giving gifts, so these kind of products are really important to kind of get there on time for Christmas. He was able to make roughly around $225,000 in 40 days in top line revenue, and his margins were very, very healthy as well, 25% or so. Now, he was looking at really great numbers, really great ROAS, and it was super scalable. However, we just couldn't get there because of supply chain issues. And we just looking at the stats, we were pretty certain that this could at least have doubled in revenue, but I think pretty likely have made 7 figures if we had the supply chain tighter. Garrett, again, he's a great marketer. However, honestly, he reached out to us a little bit late. I mean, he reached out to us in mid-November. Seemingly seems like a great time to sell. However, I mean, you see later, there's a lot of supply chain preparations you need to make before then so that you can scale effectively. Now, because it was Q4, obviously it was a short time frame for selling, and given that this is a children's product, everyone wants it by Christmas. So our last ship date last year for Christmas was 12/12/2019. He basically had roughly a month, a little bit more than a month of actually scaling that was actually possible. And the factory had just really bad lead times. They were completely swamped. Now, this is not going to be so specific to this product though. During Q4, a lot of factories are going to be swamped, and especially winning products, especially products that are relatively new, you're going to have a lot of supply chain and lead time issues. The other thing as well is that we took a pretty cautious approach to stocking. We didn't put down for huge inventory numbers, and to be fair, I mean, this was not our client's fault. I mean, Garrett, it was our first time collaborating together. It was a new store he was scaling up that was, kind of really hitting some great numbers. However, it was still new, so there was not just as much confidence to say that, okay, let's get, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 units to enable this kind of scaling. And so, although this store did really, really well, and most will probably call it a success. What happened though was that because of the factory lead times, demand was always exceeding projections. We'll plan for 100 per day, and then just marketing blew up and he was selling 200 per day, and we planned for 150 or 200 per day, and he started selling 300 per day, and therefore we were constantly playing catch up. Inventory, as soon as it arrived, it was immediately used up, and there were pending orders, and there was like another 5-10 day lead time. So there were just a lot of delays in kind of getting inventory smoothly. And then, because we kind of took things cautiously, we took every batch as a separate order. So stocking was just simply not predictable. We would try to get 500, 1,000 units at a time, and then every single time is a little bit different because there was no predictivity. And what ended up happening is that it really limited the true potential of the store itself. Marketing just simply had to slow down. I mean, there was just not enough inventory, and we still wanted to kind of keep good processing time and good shipping speeds. So because of the situation, Garrett couldn't market nearly as much as he could, even though the numbers look great. Now, store number 2 was when we did something that was very, very differently. Now, store number 2 was during COVID, and our client was selling a COVID-related product. Now, obviously, he wasn't selling toilet paper, but I can't show you guys the product, unfortunately. Although this was during COVID, there's a lot of learnings in general here, and especially for Q4, because there's a ton of similarities to Q4. So first, factories were swamped. High lead times everywhere for this kind of product. Everyone was trying to buy it. The window to sell this kind of COVID-related product was going to be pretty short. No one expected COVID to last this long, but everyone thought that, okay, you could sell this for maybe a month or a couple months. However, demand for this kind of product was really through the roof worldwide. Everyone wanted it. And because, I mean, if you were dropshipping during COVID, you knew that there were shipping delays everywhere, no matter what kind of method that you used, which means that our processing time needed to be as short as possible. We couldn't afford to wait many, many days for inventory. We needed to get that stock and get it sent out as soon as possible. But we had our learnings from the first store. We did things very, very differently, and we really crushed it with this one. So it was back in March 16th, 2020. I actually have the exact chat screenshot here. He said that he had a new store ready. He didn't start selling things yet, but everything was ready on the marketing side, and he was going to start today. And he wanted the supply chain to be 100% solid before scaling. Again, kind of a learning from last year. And he was also willing to pay a lot for a high volume of stock up front. So he was willing to be a lot more aggressive with this because, he felt good about this product, he felt good about the demand, and he had some early promising results as well. I knew Garrett had a lot of experience, so what we did is that we reached out to more than 10 factories, it might have been 15 or 20 actually, to start the process. Although it was backlogged everywhere, we were able to secure a couple thousand units with a 5-day lead time, which was actually really great at that time for this particular product. Now, so good thing that we started this process early, because if you look at the timestamp of this screenshot, it was March 18th. It was 2 days later when Garrett actually reached out to me to get on a call, something urgent, and he said, basically, we need a shitload of inventory. So yes, let's talk right now and get the team started. Sales were just exploding, and they were exploding at thousands of units per day, by the way, not dollars, thousands of units per day within just 2 days of scaling up, and it was only growing from there. So Garrett wanted us to plan for 10,000 units per day of the main product and also the upsell. And I'll just tell you right now, I've been in the supply chain business for a long time. This is not easy. 10,000 units per day, that's no joke. This was definitely not easy, but, of course, we believed in him. Garrett was willing to commit to the stock, invest in the stock, and he just told us to just go out, go crazy, and just try to secure as much as possible. And not only that, we discussed that let's actually find some factories and reserve their capacity so we have ongoing stock coming in, so there is less uncertainty with reorders. And so here's where I gotta give shout out to our incredible co-founder, Maria Sun, who's head of sourcing and factory relationships, who ended up working her magic. So what happened was that we ended up reserving an entire factory's daily production of 10,000 units per day. An entire factory. I mean, this was a sizable factory. And as backups, though, we second sourced 2 other factories as backup, and we actually used some of that backup as well. So at peak, we literally had almost 100 factory workers producing 15,000 units of this product per day, just for us, just for our client, just for this one store. A lot of suppliers, I say most suppliers out there, they just kind of order batches from like Alibaba or the Chinese version of Alibaba. They don't even talk to the factory. They don't even call up the factory. So what we were able to do, because we actually called these factories up, we built these relationships with them, even just over like a 2-day period. We told them, hey, look, we're going to pay you up front. We're going to reserve all your capacity and you are going to get volume from us. And you know what? Factories like that. Factories, they have their own capacity to think about. They have their own workers to think about. They don't like it when they don't exactly know when the order is coming in, even if the demand is very high. So when someone like us comes to them and is like, hey, you don't have to worry about your orders for the next month. We're just going to reserve your capacity and we're going to pay you up front for it, or at least as things get made. That's what was able to kind of get these factories on our side to produce only for us and just really ignore or deprioritize other client orders. So, this is a perfect example of how you really need to work with a supplier. You need to work with an agent who doesn't just order online, but they need to be working with factories directly, and they need to have that experience working with factories scaling up to this level, or even close to this level, to be honest. Even 1,000 per day is pretty hard to scale up in terms of sourcing. Now, the other thing that was very important is that stocking is really only half the story, okay? So at this kind of volume, we had to expand our own fulfillment resources. Fulfillment does not scale like marketing. You don't just throw ad dollars and it scales like that. No, you require space, you require people, you require processes. We increased our resources, our headcount, our fulfillment workers. We had a dedicated team just to handle QC for this one product. Now, if you imagine, like, we're getting 10, 15,000 units per day, if you want to make sure everything goes out smoothly, you got to get the QC smooth, and that needs people, that needs time. So we had a dedicated team just to do this, and we actually did end up rejecting maybe like 1% of the products back to the factory, so that 1% doesn't end up with the customer and obviously cause a lot of refunds in the back end. So that was very, very important. And we also had a large team of fulfillment workers to process orders. Now, especially in China, especially in places like Shenzhen, you can hire short-term workers and they can ramp up very, very quickly. Now, these things are all very, very important, by the way, because again, fulfillment is not scalable. So, one learning you have is that if you want to scale up really, really high, you really got to work with an agent that knows what they're doing. And especially if you are going to be scaling at a number that you think might be more than what they can handle, then you should have a conversation with that agent and say, hey, look, can you expand your team? Can you have more people working on my product? Now, some agents don't like to do that because it's math, right? More people means more cost for them that they don't pass on to the clients, and it means less money in their pockets. Now, I think this is kind of like the wrong way to think about things, because that's a service that I think a fulfillment agent should be providing to their clients to be able to scale up their resources to make sure that they serve their clients well and achieve what they actually promise and deliver. And if you guys remember, during COVID, there were just incredible delays all around. ePacket was not working at all. There was actually a special COVID line, an express COVID line that was just made for COVID-related products to get things smoothly out of customs as soon as possible. Otherwise, they were getting stuck. There were still delays, but shipping still was mostly around 1 to 3 weeks on this special line, compared to like 4 to 8 weeks, or even longer if you're using something else like ePacket. Obviously, this was more expensive, but our client wanted to make sure that this project was going to do well and things would deliver on time. And obviously, he had margins to support this as well. We proactively managed expectations for our client. We told him that, hey, you should really talk to your customers, lengthen your delivery dates. And his team was great at doing that. There's also a high demand product, so they really wanted it, but his team was really great at reaching out to customers, managing them, and making sure that they don't get unhappy because of these unforeseen COVID delays. And here are the results. So for the second store, Garrett used ClickFunnels, and most of you probably know that if you make $1 million in a single funnel, you get the coveted double comma award, which Garrett got, and he was very, very happy for. We were very happy for him as well. He achieved 2.4 million in total sales in 27 days. Actually, I think I said 29 days before, but it was actually 27 days. He corrected me. And less than 5% refund rate. Now, normally speaking, 5% is pretty high. However, there were a lot of COVID delays, and Garrett really wanted to make sure his customers were happy, so he was a little bit more aggressive with the refunds as well. But 5%, under 5% during that period, the worst of COVID delays, was actually really amazing. And less than 0.1% defect rate. Out of the hundreds of thousands of units, we barely got any after sales requests for this. Well, we will take a little bit of credit for this, is that, this is why exactly we invested in hiring a QC team, a quality control team, just for this product. Without that, this defect rate would definitely be higher, because as I said, we actually rejected roughly 1% of the product that the factory sent us back to them, and so that they wouldn't end up getting to the customer and obviously making a negative impact on our client's store as well. So this is a number that we're very proud of. And at the end of it, he ended up with 30% net margins. So he made very, very healthy numbers from this store. All right, so a couple of key takeaways from this, especially relevant for Q4, which is, well, it's not coming up, actually, it's here, but the Q4 peak season, November, is really coming up soon. In this kind of period where demand is high, supply chain is limited, and you have a short selling period. So the first takeaway is plan your supply chain as soon as possible. If you're selling in Q4, do not come to us like on 11/25. That's just not going to work. I mean, you'll sell some, but there's no time to prepare your supply chain. You need time to talk with factories and get these relationships building, or no matter what you do, it's going to be too late, because maybe these factories already have commitments with other big clients, and maybe there's just nothing around if you actually start too late. And be able to take a monetary risk. I mean, look, I know that many of you are in dropshipping because you want as low risk as possible, and that's totally fine if you're starting out selling during normal periods, if you want to do 30, 50 orders per day and just make a kind of decent income stream. But if you really want to go big, if you really want to take advantage of certain sales periods, you need to take some risk. You need to take some inventory risk. I mean, there's no way around it. Second is that you really want to work with an agent who has the experience and ability to scale your supply chain for you. I'll be honest, this is going to be tough. I mean, I don't want to just make this a plug for EcommOps, but this is something that we're very good at, and we built a lot of resources to do this. Now, I mean, here's the reason why like a lot of agents out there, they're not good at this, is because they just don't have that experience or the resources. So if you want to hit that level, you really want to work with us, or you really want to work with an agent that you really trust is going to do all these things for you that I just mentioned in this presentation. My third point is that I really want to emphasize working with a good agent is not just to help you save money, not to like improve your margins, increase your customer experience. I mean, all of that is definitely true. However, I find that the biggest value that a really great agent is going to provide for you, especially for a winning product you want to scale, is that we're going to provide you with confidence. We're going to provide you with the confidence for you to tell us, hey, I want to scale up. Can you do it for me? Now, what we're going to do though is that we're going to tell you we need to talk to the factories. We need to plan this out. We can't promise you, give us a few days. And we're going to be able to come back and you say, no problem. There might be certain costs involved. There might be seed time involved, and you might have to continue to adjust what your order volume might be, what your factory capacity might be. However, you're going to be able to have the confidence to not only want to make 7 or 8 figures in a couple months, but the ability to do so, to be able to market well, and for the supply chain to be able to keep up with your orders. Or if they can't keep up, at least the agent's going to tell you so that you don't oversell and that you don't end up with huge losses from a lot of refunds and chargebacks, especially if a lot of your orders don't make it by Christmas. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that if you work with a great agent, you're all of a sudden going to start making 7 figures. That is definitely not true. You have to be great at marketing. Credit was all to Garrett. Credit is all to our clients. We can't market for them. We can't give much marketing advice. There's plenty of resources out there. However, we see it over and over again. It can be done. A lot of people are saying kind of drop shipping, this kind of model is dead. I mean, it's definitely not dead. You have to know what you're doing. You have to have confidence in your marketing. So this case study at this level is probably not relevant for everyone out there. However, if you really know how to scale and you really want to go big and you simply just want the confidence to kind of be able to scale this to something much larger than what you might have even expected, then definitely work with an agent like us. Feel free to reach out with someone like us. Now, as I mentioned a couple times, the credit for this one is really all on Garrett. He's really one of the most impressive marketers we've ever worked with, and we'll continue to work with him this Q4 as well for some other big projects too. Garrett is a great example of someone who has a lot of experience, who knows what he's doing, and he can consistently scale up big numbers. Without his marketing ability, the supply chain is useless. I'll put down his description in the YouTube description, and there's also a link as well. He also does some consulting for e-commerce businesses, so I'll link his website if you do want to reach out to him. I'm not getting compensated at all for this. I just want to show you guys that this is a really good example of a really great marketer. He's no bullshit. He's actually walking the walk. We've seen him walk the walk, so definitely someone to reach out to if you want advice on kind of scaling to this level as well. All right, everyone. So hope that was helpful. Now, obviously, Garrett kind of scaled to a huge level. However, I think that, even if you're trying to hit like 500 units, 1,000 units per day, that's still a lot of units, so that's still something that this is going to apply to you a lot. So if you want to work with an agent that can help you scale like this, please reach out to us. We are going to start limiting our client intake in sometime in November. So if you want to reach out, definitely reach out as soon as possible, because coming in November, we're really going to have to focus on our existing clients. So we're going to be super selective in the kind of clients that we take in November. All right, guys. Well, hope that was helpful. Again, this is Dayu from EcommOps. See you guys next time.